Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So recently one of my SD cards that I use for filming all of my projects with went corrupt. As they sometimes do. They're, very fragile technology really when you think about it. But I have a stash of maybe like 5 cards that I rotate, I go through and use kind of like on a semi-regular basis. And as I was finding one to replace the one that had gone corrupt, I always check what footage is on the cards before I wipe them and start using them again. And I came across a card that I obviously haven't used for quite a while. And this one dates back to the back end of 2015. And there was a project on this card that, after looking back, I've never shared. I think I must have done it when I had the shop open. And used it for the shop, but never actually shared it on my YouTube channel. So what I've done is I've taken all of the footage off the card, I've re-edited it, I've found the original photographs that went with the project, and I just thought it'd be a bit of a hoot if I showed you it now. So I'm going to begin by cutting a small piece of watercolour card. This is smooth cold press watercolour card. And it's cut at 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres. I also have another 2 pieces of spare for my sentiment that I'm going to stamp onto there. Now I've cut 2 because I'm going to do the same process on both the backing paper and also on to the sentiment. So I want to stamp my sentiment over the top of the card once I've laid some colour onto it. And to begin with that, I'm going to be using today some archival ink. Now I have saffron, sepia and aquamarine. Now these are archival inks, which means that they are permanent and they're waterproof. So when they're dry, they're permanent. Even if you get water on them, they won't move, which, unlike your distress inks, they will. So these will never reactivate again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a selection of stencils with the inks. So as I say, I'm using saffron to start off with, and I have an ink blending tool that I've already got yellow on my pad, and I'm going to start just by gently bringing in some of the colour. Now I know pretty much where my main focal point for this card is going to go, and I'm going to do it in the bottom sort of left hand corner here. So that's where I want to leave the least colour. So maybe just a little bit, but not a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring that in. I'm just using your standard ink blending techniques. It's just bring your colour in from the outside of the card in circular motions all the way around. Now I'm going to keep on layering some of this colour, okay, so you don't have to sit and watch me do all this. I'm going to put a little bit of music on for you and just speed through it so you don't have to sit and watch the whole process in real time, just a little bit faster. So I'm going to turn the card around and bring that in. Okay, so where's that music? Okay, so that's the yellow. And be careful not to get any dust on there. So that's the yellow on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that to one side just for now. And then I'm going to pop all these to one side and just grab a wet wipe because I want to remove just some of that yellow ink from my craft mat. So because this is a non-stick craft mat, it will wipe straight off if you don't allow it to dry, even though it's a permanent ink. That just removes the possibility of a little bit of contamination onto the backs of your cards. I know you're going to stick them down, but that doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'll bring the yellow one back in again. Let's see if we can get this focused. There we go. So this is our yellow. So we're going to bring in this time the aquamarine, which is a nice sort of light blue. I'll just swap over my blending foams. I already have a blue one ready. And I'm just going to bring some of that blue in. Now, I'm not going to put a lot. And yes, I know that blue, when mixed with yellow, will make green. But that's okay. I'm going to bring that in and just blend it just gently around the card. I'm just doing it randomly. I'm not doing it in any kind of set pattern. And I'm just rubbing the foam onto the card just to get that kind of blotchy, kind of swirly kind of effect. And then into the corner, just darken that corner up a little bit. And the same thing over here. If you wanted to, you could actually go across all the corners just to kind of give it that bit of a border. And just blend a little bit more there. Bring that lighter blue into the centre, almost obliterating the white completely. There. Kind of looks like a hazy sky, doesn't it? And I'm going to do the same thing with my two little sentiment blocks. So again, just bring in some of that colour. Don't want a lot. Just enough to give it that kind of same look and feel. So add in the blue, a little bit of green once it turns, and then just gently brush in. Okay, so we have a kind of nice motley effect right the way across the card. There's still a little bit too much white there for me on that main point, so I'm just going to gently start where it's darker and just bring my foam back in. That's more like it. Okay, so I'll just put that to one side for now, and again I'm just going to wipe down my work surface just to remove any excess ink. I'm being a very tidy crafter today. You can see how dirty it was, even though you couldn't see it. That's where it's collected, where my fingers have been on the cloth. Okay, and then just with a piece of kitchen towel, just take up that moisture. Okay, bring back in the ink. And this is our main card, and I'm going to use a selection of 3 stencils today. I'm going to use the Harlequin stencil from TCW, which is the Crafters Workshop, which we stock in our shop. We have the Arties text stencil. I know mine are dirty, but that's because they're well loved. And again, this is one that we also stock in the shop. And this one, sorry, the Arties is also Crafters Workshop or TCW. These are all on the website, so if you want one, you know where to go. and this is the Indigo Blue Textures stencil. Again, dirty, well loved, because I use mine. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring some of those shapes into the card. So I'm just going to lay the stencil over, and again using the same blue, take a bit more colour, and then I'm just going to rub that through the stencil, and you get a nice little pattern. So I'm just rubbing gently, I'm not going mad, and again just drop that over the top and just bring a little bit of that shape into your card. Not a lot. And you can see how random that pattern is. So I've done that with the blue. I'm now going to swap that back over with the yellow. Pop the archival one away, bring out the saffron, so the aquamarine one away, and take that yellow again, and this time I'm going to use this So apologies for the glitch there, my camera suddenly decided to die on me. So as I was saying, I'm going to use this stencil, which is the texture stencil from Indigo Blue, and I'm going to use this bubble kind of effect here. So all I'm going to do is just add some of that effect to the areas around the card there. So I'm just going to lay it on, take the saffron yellow, as I said, and then just apply that in darker areas just around the card. So the colour is a little bit darker, so just apply that. I'm not inking up between each application, and all it's doing is just laying down a few extra bits of colour. Add a little bit down, put a little bit more ink on. So if you do it again and over the top, it does go darker. Now there are some bits on there, so I'll just give those a little bit of a wind assist, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing just onto my little sentiment piece, just a little bit of bubble effect, and then another little bit over here. So I'll just go up and down a little bit, and that adds a little bit more interest into your background. Okay, so I've abandoned the smaller one. I've decided that I want to use the larger one for my sentiment, so I'm not going to bother with that anymore. So I'm going to put that stencil to one side now. That's the textures stencil, and as I did before, I'm just going to give my tabletop a little wipe over just to remove any of that excess ink so it doesn't transfer onto our project. And then just give that a little dry with this kitchen towel, then we can move on to the next one. Okay, so our next one is going to be the Art Is stencil. So again, we're going to bring in the aquamarine, so I need to swap over my blending foam. I have got two of these, I just don't know what happened to the second one. Ian must have stolen it. Probably using it in some of his other projects. So all I'm going to do is just lay that over and then just run my blending tool over the top, and you can see the text then transfers into the gaps in the stencil and gives you that random kind of text effect. So it doesn't really matter where we go on the stencil. Just want to make sure that I get the text fairly straight. I don't want wonky text. And there you go. So we have some nice text effects. I'm going to do the same thing on the little one, but I don't want too much of this because this is where our sentiment's going to go. So I'm just going to lightly go over this one. So just give it a light rub over, and that will transfer a little bit of that colour through. Okay, we're done with the stencils. So we're now ready to stamp our main focal image and our sentiment onto these pieces of card. So I will get ready for that and I'll be right back. On 5, 4, 3. So my main focal point stamp in this case is going to be Miss Austen from Indigo Blue. So it's a beautiful, quite detailed stamp, and because I'm going to be using black as my background borders, my mat for this card, I'm going to stamp this in archival black ink. So here, that's what it looks like. And I've already got it mounted onto my stamp block, and I've made sure that I've lined up the top and the bottom with the grid line so I know that is perfectly straight. So I'll just move those out of the way, and then I'm just going to use jet black archival ink, and I'm going to prep my stamp, make sure it's all nicely inked up. And then I'm going to, he says putting his fingers in the ink. Schoolboy error there. Okay, let's replace that. Now the beauty of the stamp block is that you can position your piece of card or your piece of paper wherever you want it, and then you can position your stamp over the top for maximum effect. I'm sorry if I'm getting my head in the way because I need to just make sure I've got that lined up with the bottom of the paper. So from the way it looks on the camera, that's pretty lined up fairly straight. So all I'm going to do is just to go straight down onto the card, give it a nice decent even push all the way around, just make sure the ink's all transferred, and then come back up again, and then remove the stamp. Perfect, exactly how I wanted it. So we're done for the front of that, and then for our sentiment I'm going to use the jet black archival ink again. This time I'm using a sentiment stamp just from one of the old Tim Holtz sets, which I just thought was quite apt for this. So I'll give that a good ink up, and then again just line that up, and then just make sure you've got it pretty much where you want it, and drop it down, give it a good push, and then lift off. Now because we've used archival ink, I just want to remove that from the stamp, or the majority of the ink from the stamp, as soon as possible. This is a permanent ink, so when it dries it's not going to come back off again anyway, but that just removes the majority. And the same thing with the Miss Austen stamp. So just give it a quick rub over with a wet wipe, and that will just take off any excess ink that we've got left on there. Doesn't matter if you leave a little bit on, it's a stamp and all said and done. It doesn't have to be permanently or 100% clean when you put it away, as long as it's cleanish. Okay, so pretty much now all we have to do is to put all our layers together. So for speed and ease I'm going to be using a tape runner, and what I've gone ahead and done is, as usual when you're creating something, I've got my card base here, which is just a piece of cream cardstock, and it's just going to be I've cut it at 7 inches. So I'm just going to zoom out slightly. There we go, so you can see that a bit better. Okay, so this is a 7-inch card base. Now when I put my main topper on my main image, There's a lot of gap all the way around. Now I could do a 6x6, but I want the sentiment to be offset. I don't want the sentiment over the top. I want it to be offset about up there. So there's a need for another background. So off camera, I just did exactly the same thing again, but this time a little bit larger for the background. And I have a black mat for that too. So we're going to be able to layer all these together, and it'll just add that extra dimension, that extra layer. So when that's down, I've cut it so it's a couple of millimeters smaller than the card, so we've got a nice sort of even borderish all the way around. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to start layering our card up. So I'm just going to add a tape runner to all four sides and a smidge in the middle, and then with our black card I'm just going to line it up, make sure that that's a little bit off, doesn't grab straight away. I might have to hold this up in my hand a little bit. Again, there we go. And then I'm just going to stick that down onto the front of the card. Now obviously there's writing on there, so you might want to make sure that you get it so that it's the right way up. And when you're happy with your borders, just drop that down. My card may not be 100% square, but okay, so the next layer, we'll do the same thing again. And layer that up, making sure we've got an equal border all the way around. It's always difficult when you're filming because you never quite know, especially when you're using black. Which is why 9 times out of 10 I use runny glue, wet glue, and then because you've got that little bit of wiggle room, and I'm going to stick that down flat. Now you can see the difference it makes having a coordinated backing piece. Like so. And then for my sentiment, just stick that down flat again. But I think for this, what I'll do is I'll actually put this on a foam pad or a couple of foam pads. So I'll just line that up so we've got a nice border all the way around, and I shall just grab a foam pad. There we go. So I have a couple of foam pads, and I'm going to put one at this side and just one at that side. It doesn't need many. And then I'm going to position my sentiment just there. Now of course, if you're a perfectionist and you want to do more, you could add a few gems, a few, let me see if I've got any to hand. Let's see what we've got in our little collection. We may have, do we have any black left? It would be nice if we did have some black left, but probably not. My collection is somewhat depleted. I really need to go shopping again. No, I have no black ones left. Got very, very dark purple ones, but I don't think they're going to go. Not to worry, but as I said, you could add some pearls, a little bit more embellishment if you want to, but this is just to show exactly what it would look like. You could put some flowers under here just by using a couple of stencils, a couple of stamps, and just 2 or 3 colours of ink. Now, I think you'll agree that is a pretty nice card. So I hope you really enjoyed that. I have no idea where the card went, whether it got used as a sample in the shop and then got thrown away, or whether it's lurking at the bottom of a drawer somewhere. Who knows? But at least I've got the photographs to show what it was that I created. So if you did enjoy it, do remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with all your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me. I'll see you all again real soon. Bye for now.